How are you guys doing? Happy Halloween. Today is Sunday, October 31st, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Marcus Rashford. The elite English forward from Manchester United turns 24 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to shed light and of course, to shift the awareness to understand why Marcus Rashford is one of the very few select soccer players that I truly believe are one of the elite, considering how many people around the world play soccer and considering how very few of just like the top-notch clubs there are, even just like national teams. The fact that Marcus Rashford is a regular for Manchester United and England at 24 years old should give you the hint to the type of trajectory that this kid, and not to mention what he's doing for the nation of England with Boris Johnson to feed hungry children. But this isn't an episode on what he's doing off the pitch. So, if you're not familiar with Marcus Rashford, he's actually a Manchester United, he's a youth product. He's originally from Manchester, England, he's from the area. He eventually got signed to Manchester United in 2005 when he was just 8 years old. He would eventually find his way on the youth system for roughly a decade until he eventually went on to make his debut for Manchester United as a 17-year-old in 2015-2016. Is Marcus Rashford's age 17 season. He would go on to start all 11 of the matchups in a season where Man U finished with the fifth best record in the Premier League. However, this year they would go on to win the FA Cup final as they lost in the round of 4 in the other League Cup. In the group stage, they eventually got knocked out before losing in the round of 16 to Europa League. This was the year right before they got Zlatan. In the 11 games he played, specifically in the Premier League, he finished with 5 goals and 2 assists, which is an incredible debut that you're able to see from such a young player, especially at this point in his career. But the fact that you don't see that many teenagers even putting up that level of production now, but even right then and there, that was when people started to get an idea for the type of player that Marcus Rashford really was. He finished with a goal in the FA Cup. He even had a couple goals in Europa League before they got effectively eliminated. But following the 2015-16 season, he would eventually go on to make his debut with England in May 2016. He would eventually go on to score, so he became the youngest English player to score in his first senior international match. He would eventually go on, I'll mention that in 2016, once he was, he was 18 years old when he was officially called up to the English national team. He would go on to compete with England at the 2016 Euros. This Euros would eventually result in them losing in the round of 16 in France to Iceland. This is when the skull chant got really, really big, but that was right then around there because they made it through the Group B. They made it through group stage after drawing with Russia and Slovakia and beating Wales, but they just weren't as strong of a team in 2016. But following his 2016 debut on the international stage, Marcus Rashford will come back to Manchester United for his age 18 season. In his first full season in the Premier League, he would start 16 of the 32 matches he played in a season where Manchester United would finish 6th in the Prem, which wouldn't qualify them for Champions League the next year. They would eventually, however, go on to win the Community Shield, and they won the EFL Cup. They won both domestic cups. Or they didn't win the FA Cup. They won the Community Shield, and they won the EFL Cup final. And they would also go on to win the Europa League. And this was back in 2017, where they ended up having to beat Ajax before Ajax made their amazing run. In the 2016-17 campaign, which saw Marcus Rashford pick up all these trophies, including the English Super Cup, for instance. Especially in the Premier League, he would go on to finish with 5 goals and an assist for the season. He added 2 goals and 2 assists in the Europa League campaign that saw Manchester United go on to win it all. And in 2016-17, you started to see Marcus Rashford really start to fight and really kind of earn the minutes that he would as a full-on starter for Manchester United. Following that season, he would come back for his age 19 season with the club in 2017-2018. In the Premier League itself, he would start 17 of the 35 games in a season where Manchester United would finish second in the Premier League. They would go on to finish as runners-up this year. And even though they qualified for Europa League, they won Europa League the year before. They would end up losing in the Super Cup that year to Real Madrid, because this is during this was at the end of their Galacticos era. And they would also go on to lose. This is the last year of the Real Madrid season. They would go on to lose in the round of 16 in Champions League. Manchester United would eventually go on to lose to Sevilla. And then 2018, however, was the season in which Real Madrid would actually go on to win their 3rd Champions League in a row in 4 and 5 years. But it was around that season. Looking at the other matchups that he was playing in the season, in 2018, they also finished as runners-up in the FA Cup. In the FA Cup, Marcus Rashford had 3 goals in the 3 matches he played. Or he had 1 goal in the 5 matchups he played. And then while Manchester United was in Champions League, he would go on to finish with 3 goals and an assist in the 8 Champions League games he played before Man U got eliminated. This would eventually lead to the World Cup, which Marcus Rashford participated in with England. England would make it through their group stage after beating Tunisia and Panama and falling a goal short to Belgium. They would end up beating Colombia 1-1 in extra time, I believe, off penalties. And then they would end up beating Sweden in the quarterfinals 2-0. They ended up losing in the semifinals to Croatia in extra time before eventually losing to Belgium in the 3rd place playoff. That is officially how that matchup ended. Rashford did not include a goal or an assist, but he did happen to play in all 6 matchups. And this was immediately following his age 19 season. So considering he already played the Euros and the World Cup by 19, should kind of hint that he was meant to be a very big player for the nation. Following his age 19 season, he would come back to Manchester United for what would be his age 2021 season. In 2018-19, he would go on to start 26 of the 33 matchups that he would play in a season where Manchester United finished 6th in the table yet again. They would lose 6th in the FA Cup. They would lose in the 3rd round of the actual Super Cup itself. And they would go on to lose in the quarterfinals of Champions League this year. This season, they ended up losing to Barcelona. But in 2017, 2018, looking at how Rashford fared, looking at 2018, 2019, he would go on to finish with 10 goals and 6 assists in the Premier League in the 33 matchups he played. That is the first time that Marcus Rashford ever eclipsed the double-digit mark, and his 6 assists were the most assists that he's ever put up in a Premier League season up to date. In the Champions League season, which saw them make it just a round further, he would finish with 2 goals in the 10 matches he played. He even finished with 3 goals and in Nations League. But regardless, at the end of the season, Manchester United found themselves trophyless. And this would transition into Marcus Rashford's age 21 season, his 5th season playing for the Manchester United senior club. And in the season that was so heavily impacted by COVID, he would start all 31 of the matchups he played in a season where Manchester United finished 3rd in the Premier League. This is the year I believe they finished behind. This is the year Liverpool definitely won and Manchester City finished 2nd. Looking at how Marcus Rashford fared in the Premier League itself, he would finish with 17 goals and 7 assists. Even to date, that is the most goals and assists that Marcus Rashford has ever put together in an entire domestic season. And even at that point, his 7 assists were the most assists he's ever put up in a season, at least up until that date. He would go on to finish with 4 goals in the League Cup, and in the League Cup that season, they would eventually go on to lose in the semifinals. This year, they lost in the semifinals to Manchester City. Before Manchester City made it to the end, and they would eventually lose in the semifinals of the FA Cup. The FA Cup would eventually see Manchester United losing to Chelsea before Chelsea ended up losing to Arsenal in that domestic cup. But regardless, it would really kind of bring together what was an amazing all-around season for Marcus Rashford. And the Euros actually got delayed a year, so he would go in following his age 21 season, which was impacted by COVID, like I already mentioned. That would transition into the last full season that he played with Manchester United. In 2020-2021, Marcus Rashford's age 22 season, where he turned 23, he would start 33 of the 37 matchups he played for a Manchester United team that would go on to finish second in the Premier League and runners-up in the Europa League title to Villarreal. They lost the Premier League last year to Manchester City, if I'm not confused. Looking first at what he was able to do in the Premier League, he finished with 11 goals and 9 assists. This will be the third consecutive year he finished with double-digit Premier League goals, and his 9 assists are the most assists he's ever been able to put up in a domestic season. Taking a look at what he was able to do in his other matchups this season within Europa, or first off, he started off in Champions League before they got eliminated. He finished with 6 goals in the 6 matchups he played in Champions League. In the 7 matchups he played in Europa League, he finished with a couple goals there too. He finished with a goal in 4 league games in a season in which in the league they finished, or in the League Cup, they would end up losing in the semifinal round to Manchester City. That is exactly how they got knocked off. And then they would eventually lose in the round of 6 in the FA Cup. And in the FA Cup, Marcus Rashford would go on to finish with a goal and 2 assists. Following the 2021 season in which he wasn't able to win a title with Man United, he would go on to compete with the English national team at the Euros. Because of COVID, the Euros that were originally scheduled for the 2020 summer got pushed back to 2021. And in this matchup, or in this series, first, England would make it out of group stage after they beat Croatia and the Czech Republic and drew with Scotland. In the round of 16, England would end up beating Germany 2-0. In the quarterfinals, England beat Ukraine 4-0. In the semifinals, England would end up beating Denmark 2-1 in extra time, and then they would end up losing on penalties to Italy in the 2020 Euro finals, and that was the last big international competition that Marcus Rashford competed in, and he was one of the players that I believe missed one of the penalties down the stretch that eventually resulted in England losing the match. However, following that international break, this returns us to this current season where Marcus Rashford started the season 23 and, of course, is now 24. So far, he's started only one of the 3 games that he's played for a Manchester United team that's currently sitting 5th in the table, and really coming off of their recent game against Tottenham Hotspur, Marcus Rashford scored the 3rd and final goal of Manchester United to beat Tottenham yesterday. So of course this was that was kind of a last trade or landmark moment of his age 23 season. But looking at what he's done so far, he has 2 goals in the 3 Premier League games that he's played so far. And not to mention, this is playing on a packed Man U front line that consists of Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Mason Greenwood, not to mention Anthony Martial, not to mention, a lot of players that are at least like in the front line for Manchester United because they have a good amount of scores. Jadon Sancho as well. But following this right now, you can see that Marcus Rashford is slowly starting to put a lot into the season. And in the 2 Champions League games he's played for Manchester United, he's netted a goal even. So that really kind of speaks to the type of player that Marcus Rashford is. When we look at the player he is as he turns 24, he was the 2020 English Footballer of the Year, and he's just only getting better. The last 3 full seasons he's played in the Premier League, he's finished with double-digit goals, and his production in the Champions League and international competitions is starting to grow. He's won a continental title in the Europa League title, and this is a player that now turning 24 has the entire world at his feet. And considering what he's doing on and off, I honestly cannot wait to see what Marcus Rashford makes of his illustrious and amazing career, at least up until now. Thanks for listening to my piece. I want to, of course, thank the Pro Football Reference website, along with Transfermarkt, Footy Stats, and, of course, the FIFA websites regarding the English and Manchester United teams that gave me the facts and figures that I needed in order to complete this episode. I want to, of course, thank everybody listening to all 16 minutes of this piece. I would recommend that everyone watches Marcus Rashford when they get the chance. He currently wears number 10 for Man U, and I believe his number for England should be changing in a matter of maybe months. But Marcus Rashford is definitely a player to keep your eye on, especially as he is getting better and better, and he's already established himself as one of the elite soccer players that this game has ever seen. I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. Once again, today is Halloween of 2021. I'm James Sims, and I want to thank everyone for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you tomorrow on Monday, November 1st, once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done. Thanks for listening to my piece. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out.